Welcome to the Black on Shelf podcast, a podcast championing Black and brown entrepreneurs on the digital and physical shelves. I'm your host, Tanaj Ferguson. This is Black on Shelf. So I always love to start the podcast with talking about how I learned about a brand that we're interviewing. And in this case, I learned about it through my friend. And this is the second brand that Ricky has actually shared on some previous podcasts that he and I go back and forth on brands and talk about them. So Ricky, my friend from business school, who also loves food and beverages and actually invests in them, and like me is always searching for brands. It's like, you're into bodybuilding. What do you think about this brand? And I knew some competitor brands in the space, and I was like, haven't had theirs yet, but I know the other one. I'm curious how they compare. Did the taste test myself after talking to you, and boom, was wowed. And before we went on the podcast, I was telling Amin how my trainer at the gym and several other folks at the gym were amazed at how great it tastes. So this is super legit. And I'm going to have to do some live taste tests for you guys to see how all the flavors compare, some of my favorite pairings. So watch for that when we launch the podcast itself on our social channels. But I'm super stunned. Your donut is amazing. As I see why you call it the elite donut. Certainly have never tasted anything this way. And then having the peace of mind. I care about macros a lot. And having the peace of mind that it's protein packed and it's gluten-free. I don't necessarily follow a gluten-free diet, but that's always great when you know transparently what is in the product. The taste is on fire. Okay. If I'm going to eat a donut-like product, it needs to taste like one, or else I'm just going to go for the real thing or not eat it at all. And in this case, I'm like, ooh, I can eat these donuts a little more regularly and fit them in quite nicely. Definitely eases your sweet tooth. So I found out about it from my friend, was super just blown away by the taste. I think I called you immediately and was like, I just had to tell you personally, it was amazing, and you were on the road, but you were, thrilled to hear the feedback. I wrote it back to you. And so, we're here to really talk about how you got to this place, what made you start a donut company. Other amazing thing that I love is we both went to University of Texas for school, hook 'em horns, not at the same time. I'm older, but I love to see that innovation across the campus and to see what you are doing. So tell us about you and your brother, Amin. Amir couldn't be with us today, but you're going to share all about what you all have done. Talk to us about your background. How did this all begin? Who are you all? Why would you start a donut company?
Absolutely. I always joke, but I never thought I was going to be in the business of donuts growing up. So
right.
It's funny to see how it all comes full circle. But yeah, for myself and Amir, we're twin brothers. We actually grew up in Austin, Texas. And for us, kind of going back to our days in high school, a little bit of background on our family. We come from a family with diabetes and obesity. And, we were on the verge of it ourselves. At age 16, I weighed 340 pounds. My brother, he was also extremely overweight, and, seeing the negative effects of these diseases firsthand, we knew that wasn't the life we wanted to live. And so, that's when we decided to make a lifestyle change. We adopted a high protein keto lifestyle, and I lost 140 pounds. My brother lost about 100 pounds in just over a year. And that was really where our passion for health and fitness began. And that's kind of where our quest for better for you products began. And that's how I got started. So it was actually years later at the University of Texas, like you mentioned. I was working with the Texas football team, and during my time there, we were surrounded by the high protein cookies, brownies, shakes. I mean, you name it, we'd eat these things all day long. But at night, being college students on a college budget, we found ourselves at the local donut shop 3 to 4 times a week. And really, it was one day while eating our donuts, we kind of thought to ourselves, what if these donuts were better for you, protein packed and low sugar. We were always with a bunch of the athletes. And so these football players, these guys were training for the NFL draft, and it just didn't make sense to us that they were scarfing down these dozens of donuts. And, that's how I got started. My brother got to work in our apartment kitchen, and, thus the Elite Sweets was born, the Elite Donut was born. And so that's really how we got started. I didn't think I was going to be selling donuts growing up, but, just our passion really led us there. And, being entrepreneurs at heart, it all came full circle. So it's been a great journey, but that was kind of really how we got started.
Yeah, I remain amazed. I've heard this story before, but I just love that you took a pain point for yourself, which was really, you know, wanting some of your favorite foods that really satisfied you, but not wanting to compromise from a macro standpoint, from the quality of the food standpoint, not wanting to eat junk because you had goals. Talk to us about that period of time where you were trying to lose weight. What are some of the things that you were doing? What were some of your activities? What were you eating? And were you ever able to incorporate some of these fun foods into your diet at that time when you were trying to lose 100, when you were losing 140 pounds?
Yeah, so for us, we've always been kind of high protein's been at the core of everything for us. I think that's kind of why we started a protein packed donut.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I think protein is just the building blocks for everything, muscle and
Absolutely.
all that. And so that was one of the things, we wanted to lose a ton of weight, but we also wanted to maintain muscle and, remain strong. And so that was one thing that we really did since day one. And so during kind of our weight loss journey, we were really strict. I mean, it was really, really disciplined. I wish I had that level of discipline today. I don't know what happened to me, but
you lost the weight already. So.
Yeah, exactly. Placing it right. But no, so I think for us, we didn't eat too many sweets. Sometimes we'd venture off. We'd have like the protein cookies, but then we come to find out, there's 20 plus grams of sugar in it. And so at the end of the day, it really wasn't that healthy for us. So we've always had a sweet tooth. And I think that was one of the things that we've always missed was kind of, eating our favorite sweets because we were really strict and we were really regimented. It was kind of like a protein shake for breakfast. We'd have, a high protein lunch, whatever we really wanted for lunch, because that was our one meal that we got to enjoy. And then for dinner, another shake. And that was it. That was kind of our diet for an entire year.
And exercising.
Yeah, we exercised a ton. It's funny because, we actually at the time we really quit football to just dedicate ourselves and commit. It was in high school, so we committed to just really the lifestyle. So really getting to the gym, fitness, working out twice a day, late at nights. That was us. That was the grind. And so thinking back on it, I wish I still had it in me today. I'm like, man, I was so committed, but I'm getting back into it. So that was really kind of how we got started. And I think for us, just kind of moving into college, learning a little bit about business, learning a little bit about nutrition and things like that. We just saw some of the companies like, the Halo Tops of the world, the Lenny and Larry's, really redefining their categories and bringing these healthier alternatives, if you will, to their respective categories. And just looking at the market, donuts is one of those things that it's weird, but I'm sure you can relate that there's this like correlation with donuts and bodybuilders and donuts.
Yeah.
So,
we always gravitate towards them. After every show, someone's bringing you a donut, or the show has the donuts, or we're buying a ton of them.
Exactly. So it's kind of this weird correlation, but for us, we just saw the opportunity. It was like a white space, and the donut category is obviously large. We all love donuts, and just kind of looking at the market, there hasn't been innovation in the category for a really long time. It's traditionally a breakfast item. It's traditionally kind of like your hole in the wall donut shops, and besides the hole in the middle, there hasn't been innovation in the last 100 years. And so that's where we thought we'd come in and really disrupt this category.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there were a couple indicators that it was something. I think you have created a better donut than what was out there. I saw a brand on Shark Tank. We won't say the name here, but a competitor who also was trying to create some type of innovation. I definitely think Elite Donut does it better, and your goal of being really a packaged good that's very accessible and able to, you're able to get it from more retail locations. That really also sets you apart from what they are doing. Yeah. I love that what you're doing really is making the lifestyle piece of healthier eating more attainable, because this is one of the foods some people may feel like they have to eliminate forever if you're going to maintain wellness, or you have this tremendous guilt when you're going to eat one or two. So this is a way to say, okay, we've made it better. You don't have to feel guilty. It's also packaged as one. So the serving size is very clear. You don't have to be tempted to, I mean, it does taste so great. You may want a ton of them, but I will say one is very satisfying.
It is. And that's something that we really focused on, is kind of that portion control. And I think kind of, comparing us to some of the other products in the market, the Shark Tank company, if you will, is, we really wanted to lead with convenience. So, ready to eat, pre-glaze. And I think that's really what differentiates us. Obviously, we put health and nutrition first and foremost. So really focused on a goal that's, really focused on a product that's not only nutritious, but also is really adding value and is functional. But I think, in the morning when you're on the go and you need something quick and you're looking for something high protein, like making eggs is inconvenient, right? It takes time to make them,
Cook it up.
pick it all up, clean, and to eat it all. It's just a process. And so we wanted to figure out how do we, get the same amount of protein as, your eggs in the morning, but make it convenient, easy, ready to eat, and kind of on the go. And so, that's kind of why we did this. And obviously working with elite athletes, so we want it to be an elite product, really set ourselves apart, just the better for you. And so that's kind of where it all came together.
Yeah, I really love that. So I do want to talk about, we understood kind of the why behind why you and Amir, your twin brother, started the business. Talk to us about how it actually grew and progressed. So you have this idea, he's mixing things up. What are some of the things you do next to really commercialize this, to make it real?
Yeah, it's a process. I'll tell you that. So we started.
Still a process, right?
Yes, definitely. No doubt. Definitely is. So for us, we started out of college. So we literally started in our apartment, our college apartment, and, we were making it up ourselves. And then I graduated shortly after. So it was like literally the month before I graduated, and we moved in with our parents. So we started making it out of our parents' home. Amir actually dropped out to bake full time for us. So I swore I was never going to get in the kitchen. Boy, did that change quick. So we moved into our parents' house and we started kind of making it.
Wait,
there.
did you say you dropped out of college to do this?
My brother did.
Your brother did. So he was behind you.
Yeah, I graduated. Literally, it was the month before I graduated. So
Wow.
I was on track to graduate, and then he dropped out because he was like, "No, we're doing this." Because when we first started, it was one of those things where I was like, "I'm not going to get in the kitchen." I was like, I don't want to say beneath me or anything. I just didn't know. I wasn't a kid. I didn't like being in the kitchen. I didn't like cleaning dishes. I didn't like doing the whole baking. Always like, well, so one of us has to. And so he was like, all right, well, I'm dropping out. I'm doing this full time. And basically we're in this. And so I was like,
what a risk. How did your parents react to this?
Oh, they weren't happy. They definitely were not happy. They didn't like the idea of it. Cause I mean, we didn't have any money at the time. There was really no proof or traction on the market, if you will. It was just, gut instinct and our desire, our thought that this was going to be something big. We figured if it wasn't going to be us, it was going to be someone else. So we wanted to capitalize on this opportunity. So they were not happy. We came home, lived in their house, using their oven full-time, baking donuts, and they just saw Amir, making stuff and making donuts in the kitchen. And it was interesting, to say the least, but hopefully it all works out for us.
Hopefully it all works out. But you guys are 4 years in now. So I definitely want to get to some of the learnings you have now, being 4 years in, but we're going to stay on this topic of your origin story. So Amir, he drops out to be that full-time baker, product developer, essentially. That's his skill set. He was better at that than you.
I wouldn't say that was a skill set, but he was willing to do it. He was definitely willing to do it. So
willing to do it, and you weren't.
Yeah. So I think for us, really, the next step was like, how are we going to fund the business? Obviously, you need money to get started. And so I just graduated, and I was like, all right, well, I'll get a full-time job and I'll fund this with my money. So I got a full-time job right out of college, and I did it for a few months. I was still in training, and it was basically, I think 2 months into the job, we were fortunate enough to get called up for a pitch competition. We were actually at South by Southwest in Austin. Long story short, we ran into the right people at the right time. And fortunately, we were able to compete in a pitch competition. And so I got a call one day that we were going to that we were one of the finalists. And so I told my full-time job, I was like, hey, I have this opportunity. I need basically a week off to go.
They're like, you don't work here no more.
Yeah.
A week off.
Yeah, I was like, I need a week off to prepare because I only had a week to get ready for this. And, ultimately they didn't like the idea. And so I quit. I straight up was like, this is my one chance to make this right for all of us. Amir took his leap and now this is mine. So I quit and I prepared the full week for it. And fortunately we were able to get some funding. So that's kind of how we got started. We were actually raised 360,000 from WeWork. So it sounds.
That was the competition you went into at that time at South by Southwest?
Yeah, exactly. It was a pitch competition through WeWork. And so we were fortunate enough to get, 360K in funding. So
That's significant.
yeah, that doesn't just happen overnight. And that's why I'm not missing this opportunity for anything. I'm doing whatever I have to, and I'm just going to prepare well, and I'm going to win. It's the competitor in me. And so that's how we got started. Once we got the funding, we actually moved to a commercial kitchen where we started making, by the thousands kind of ourselves. Before it was like dozens in our parents' kitchen, but then we moved into a commercial kitchen. And then we brought on a product developer. And so he was actually the original product developer of Udi's gluten-free bread. So he really created kind of the gluten-free market. And so we brought on, expert help to reformulate our product. And so that's kind of how we got started. Once we brought him on, we scaled things up and moved into a Copacker. So we outsourced all our manufacturing. And that was really kind of, how we got started. It was a long process and we really bootstrapped this, but a lot of luck and, a lot of right place at the right time kind of thing for us. And, that's how we made it.
I love that. And I definitely want to lean into a couple of things you mentioned. We talked about going from, for one, your story is full of risks, but that is what this is also about. So I hope the Boss fam, the Black on Shelf family hears you when you say you have to make these very strategic decisions. And sometimes you don't have all of the proof. It's not always linear, like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm guaranteed. Most of the time you're going to be sort of hanging and you have to be the one to believe and just be so committed to moving it forward that you're able to kind of somewhat confidently be like, yeah, I'm just going to quit my legitimate job that I just graduated from college and got to do my, at the time, no name donut company. Not fully a brand yet, right? You have to really believe in what you're doing or believe that you are going to work enough to make it happen. Are there any learnings you have around that period of time that you can give to the Boss fam for how to like really discern what are the right risks to take?
Yeah.
Because I believe you were also prepared during that time as well. It's to the point that you were able to make 1 week of preparation and the stuff you had already done at that by that point work in your favor. Because also WeWork and pitching in Austin is not easy. There's tons of great companies also there doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we beat out great competition. I mean, everyone we compete against is like Forbes 30 under 30. Their company was a lot farther than where we were at. So yeah, it was crazy. But I think for us, it was really self-belief would probably be the biggest thing, the biggest driver for us. That and when you talk about kind of assessing risk, we were young and at the end of the day, we didn't have a lot to lose. I think it helps. We were really naive, but I think that's kind of that's what guided us. That was kind of our North Star. Because had we known, the pain that we were going to go through, the troubles, how hard it really is to do it, we would have never started. I can tell you that. So I think it was just kind of being naive, but also confident in our ability to execute. We've always been competitors, always been athletes, always been really, the guy to want to win whatever we were doing. And I think that was it. We just knew this was a great idea. And we knew if it wasn't us, it was going to be someone else. And the thought of someone else cashing in on our idea or like making it a brand, it just didn't sit well with us. And so we were those guys that are like, we're going to do it. And,
it's going to outwork you, everything.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, we didn't have money at the time. So it was literally just all grit and just perseverance. And it was like, if someone's going to beat us, then they're going to have to beat us. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
That was kind of what it was, but it was just kind of being naive and really confident in our ability to execute.
Yeah. So you talked about how you spent some of that money and a big piece of it was the commercial kitchen. Now, once you got into the commercial kitchen, were you hiring additional people sort of just hourly to help you make it? Or at this point, you somehow came into the kitchen as well?
Yeah, no, this is funny that you bring this up and I've actually never talked about this. So it's interesting. But yeah, no, it was us. Unlike what I originally had said, I eventually got in the kitchen. So this was our time to shine, but it was really shout out to all our friends. I mean, we had people in there packaging, we had people in there baking, and we didn't have money to pay them. So it was like, they were just doing it for free. They, we had our close friends that really supported us, and you were like, you guys are crazy. I mean, to say
Right.
you
They
guys are,
probably admired you just a little bit though, because in Austin, you kind of everyone knows someone that's building something, and you're either another person building something or you're their friend supporting them with a part of it.
exactly. And so I think, most people thought the idea was crazy. We were, giving up a lot to try and build a donut company, if you will, or startup, but in their mind, maybe like a little donut shop or something like that. But the ones that are really close to us, they were really supportive, and they were like, probably that we're crazy still, but at least we're going for it. And that the work ethic shows, right? Most people, they talk about it, but we like to say like 1 hour of execution is better than 10 hours of thinking. And that's who we are. We used to spend 12, 14 hours a night in the commercial kitchen, making ourselves, packing ourselves. And, we did the overnight shift because no one else wanted to. And so
It was
it's like,
cheaper then, right?
what's that?
Sometimes the overnight shift is cheaper in the commercial kitchen
Yeah.
versus the high traffic time.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheaper. We got away with extra hours because there was no one watching us. So, we could extend our hours a little bit longer if we weren't quite finished.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of hard work, and it was just friends that were supportive and willing to come in the late hours and just package with us, spend a little bit of time with us, and get in the kitchen. So really, we wouldn't have been able to do it without them for sure.
Yeah. And while you were at the commercial kitchen, where exactly were you starting to sell your product? Or was it to students? Did you have an online storefront at that point? Were you doing a farmer's market in the area? What did that look like? What was your channels of sale at the time?
Yeah, so for us, we've always been online first. So we always had our online store. We weren't doing, crazy volume or anything then, but we just kind of getting started. But we were really boots on the ground. I mean, for 2 years there, Amir and I were at every gym in Austin, every coffee shop, every little, bodega or like hole in the wall, like local store. And we were always sampling, just trying to get the product out there, going to corporate events like the Facebooks or the big tech companies and saying, hey, can we sample here? And then give out little promos to order online to your employees. So we really hit it hard, just boots on the ground, pre-COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
We're everywhere. And so that's how we really got the product out there, is just literally demo, 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 demo. And, that's how we got started at the beginning.
What was your packaging like at the time?
Oh man, it was,
Throwback.
yeah. So it was funny because when we first started, it was kind of like this little foil bag. You couldn't see anything. It was honestly, it was like, you didn't know what you were going to get. And, what we eventually kind of went into was like a heat sealed bag. So we used to literally heat seal them ourselves, put a sticker on it. And that was kind of our donut. So it's evolved immensely since then, but that's how we got started. And even when we moved into the Copacker, I feel bad for those guys because they just complain about it so much. But it was literally, so at first it was two stickers, it was like a front and a back. So it was like stickering, and then we got like a long one that wrapped around. So that was a fun time. But I mean, once we got to the Copacker and we're doing like, some more volume, they were just stickering and heat sealing, and it was a mess. But eventually, now we got to flow wrappers and all pre-designed
Packaging.
Yeah, exactly.
What was some of the most surprising things for you? Because you didn't have a food background or a CPG type background. You had never brought a product to commercialization, right?
Yeah.
So what was some of your what are some of the most surprising things about working with a co-packer for you that you want to share here?
Man, there's so many learnings. It was the most ridiculous thing. We actually do all of our co-manufacturing outside of Denver, Colorado. So everything's done in another state. So that was just a complete beast to go from Austin to Colorado. But because you got to take in external factors like altitude, atmospheric pressure, environment, because this is a baked good, and
Yeah.
we're baked in other in high altitude places, but it's not the same. Your grandma's recipe is not going to turn out the same everywhere else. And so there are some, logistical challenges with that, finding a co-man in the early days that's willing to work with a small brand, a challenge in its own. And going through the process, I'm literally calling every single co-packer that does kind of like baked goods, and it was not going good for me. I'll tell you, we started to go, I was going down a list in his alphabetical order, and I got down to the last person. The co-packer we work with, it starts with a Y. And so I was like, this is the very last person. I just, before I called, I almost wanted to cry. I was like, what is going on? I don't even know why I'm going to do this, but
Like send a prayer.
yeah, I
This
was like, let me
has
just
to
call.
work. No more options.
I didn't know what I was going to do if it didn't work out, but I called and that's the irony of this whole thing.
Yeah.
That was kind of our luck, is went through the entire alphabetical list. It was the very last person on the list.
I know you wish you started backwards now at this point, right? You're like, what if we had started from the end and called up to A?
It would have been too easy. Life's never that smooth.
Not that easy.
So, it's funny talking to my co-man, because he's like, you're not the only person that tells me that. He's like, I get that all the time from people, because it's just alphabetical order list. And so, that was just ridiculous, trying to find someone who will work with you, find partners, and then moving everything out of state. That was so difficult. I honestly had never really traveled prior to working in the business. Now it's like,
so that was your first time coming out of Texas, going to your co-man?
It wasn't my first time, but it was my first time, I guess, kind of independently. Yeah.
Okay. So you all you visited like when they might beforehand, and maybe when you did the first production run or something. What was your visitation schedule like? Because you are working with a co-man outside of state. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, the first time, we talked on the phone, had a great conversation, and I was like, this is too good to be true. We'll see what happens. So we set up basically like a trial run. And so I went out there. I'm trying to think my first time. I know I went up there a couple of times where we drove and had to literally bring ingredients, equipment, things like that. That was a beast.
Yeah.
Trip as well. But we went up there and just did a little bit of testing, introduced ourselves, kind of checked out the facility, make sure, everything worked out and that we could work together. And it
worked out. Did you bring your product developer with you, or you just sort of had them in communication?
Exactly. So my product developer lived in Colorado, so that's why we moved it up there. Well, that's why we moved it, because we were flying him back and forth, and it was just taking too long, too much efforts. So we're like, all right, well, we'll just move to you, basically. So it really was all like, it all worked out perfectly. I don't know how the world, the divine presence intervened, but it all came together. And so he lived right up the street, and so he actually just drove back and forth. And it took us a while to get things rolling, because it wasn't like a plug and play. It was like altitude, all this kind of things, but eventually we got it to work out. And even then it was just like it was a stressful time, but it was like, we're making progress, you know what I mean? And so it was a good feeling, but it did take a lot of work and time, and probably 4, 5, 6, 7 trials to actually get it going before we went into a first like full.
And that's normal, right? That's normal when you're doing product development. You're making something that hasn't been made. It's going to take some time. Share with the Boss Fam, what was that duration? Was it a 6-month product development period where you're just kind of tinkering and trying? And then also share with them, what was your experience of finding a good fit product developer? Did you kind of work with some that ended up didn't working out, or did you land your best fit one from that time who you might continue to work with today? So talk to us about those two things.
Yeah, so I guess to put in context, I graduated in May 2017. So we got started in March 2017. So that was kind of like ideation, if you will. And then from launch to our Copacker with our kind of first production run, that was June 2019. So it took a little over 2 years. So in terms of product development, from the time we were in the commercial kitchen working with the product developer to the day we launched, took over a year for sure. So it was a timely thing, and it was honestly that was one of the hardest times as a business owner, because when we transitioned, we cut production of the donuts we were making in our commercial kitchen, hoping that things were going to be smooth and we were going to start right away.
Wow.
And so we really went a year without selling donuts. And it took so much longer than we thought. We had pre-orders at the time. Like, we were trying to just get a little bit of revenue. So we were doing pre-orders, and we're like, oh, we're going to ship this date. Didn't work out. Oh, we're going to ship the next month. And, at the end of the day, we just like, it sucks, but we're just going to have to refund, pretty much anyone who wasn't willing to wait, because it was on us. It took longer than we
Yeah.
expected, and so it was really a trying time for us. And one of the things that set us back, in our mind, I don't want to say it wasted a year, but it killed the year for us, which really was unfortunate. But at the end of the day, we're bringing innovation to a new category, and so
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing, we're the pioneers for this industry, and it's tough.
Exactly.
We're not creating, we're not trying to make some base donut or some like regular donut that people see on the internet, these recipes. This is food science, and that's something that we really predicate ourselves on, and really committed to really creating the best product we can. And that's why it tastes so good.
It
So
really does. It's well worth the wait that it took you. If you could do it again though, you're saying you wasted that year, but now that you look back, what could you have done in that year when you were kind of things were delayed? What could you have done during that time while you were simultaneously working on the product development?
yeah, so I mean, in hindsight, I would say we were making everything ourselves in the commercial kitchen, and we were selling product. We say today as a business, we didn't sell our first donut until June 2019, which was when we got our product developer. But we were selling before then, but we don't really count any of that like revenue, because we did it all ourselves. As part of kind of our business story, if you will, we say we launched in 2019. Just
Mm-hmm.
that's when like the
That's the
product.
formal product that you're proud of.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Most proud of.
Yeah, the early days is kind of like our MVP
Yeah.
donut, if you will. Um, so I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Yeah. So we were talking about what would you do with that year? You call it wasted, but what would you do
Yeah,
with that year? What would you differently with that year if you could do it again and somehow make it more productive, or, you
yeah.
know, a time that you don't regret? What would you do with that?
Probably never stop production. It was
Okay.
we stopped production because we thought, okay, well, we're gonna we try to make it like a marketing thing where it's like, hey guys, we're about to launch our new and improved product.
Hmm.
Pre-orders start now, and we're gonna ship out in a month or two, or whatever it was that we said. And so we hyped it up as this big new relaunch, and stuff like that. And so we quit making it ourselves. We quit selling to really put our time and effort into the new relaunch, and that just kept going longer and longer and longer.
Hmm.
um, it's tough, but at the end of the day, it all works itself out, I
It
think.
does. My marketer mind is also thinking about how, you're focusing on, you're selling, but really what you were doing is building community by continuing to sell, even though it was your MVP product, what you really were doing was building community, getting people who, those early users who really, those early consumers who don't care if it's not the best thing ever. They love the idea of a protein packed, keto friendly donut, right? So they were willing to give you that chance and also willing to stick with you as you work through the kinks to get this thing great. So that's, I think that time was still important. And for those who are building something, they have a product, it's their MVP, trying to bridge the gap to get to that place where Amir and Amin are now, where they have a great product. That period of time is for you to really bring your target audience together, get your consumers who care most about your brand, to be excited about it even in its infancy, even in its imperfection, because they demand that so much, that they demand that product and that experience and that proposition so much that they're willing for it to be imperfect.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that's what we did, is utilize social media and really build that community. And, we tried to stay as transparent as possible, and keep our customers, our fans,
Mm-hmm.
engaged and up to date, and say, hey guys, sorry, it's, we're creating the best possible product we can. And, we're moving into new facilities, we're doing this, that, the other. And, we underestimated the effort it was going to take.
Right.
And so, it is what it is. And I want to answer your other question about the product developer piece. Is
Yes.
another
Mm-hmm.
one of those things, we just were fortunate and got lucky. So in Austin, it's a huge CPG community. Everyone, it's a huge, really entrepreneurial
Yeah.
startup community. And so we started off by just going to like local food and beverage events. Like there's some local accelerators here in town, And we just started going to the events to kind of immerse ourselves in the community, meet other people and just practice pitching. You know what I mean? Getting in front of people is one of the hardest things you can do, especially when it's a new idea and you're the young kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just getting out there and, put in the effort. And that's what we always did was, go to all these events. Everyone knew us because we were at every single event. We were at every demo. We did everything ourselves. And we ran into someone who had this connection. I guess she used to work with a Central Market bakery department, so she was familiar with a lot of people. And I don't even know how they know each other, but she introduced me to a guy, and I didn't know who he was at the time. And then we got on a phone call. I was like, you created Udi's? I was like, you're the guy who made this gluten-free bread, created this whole category.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. He's telling me all about it. And he was just, he liked the idea that because we're leading with innovation, and he's one of those people. He's so advanced in his career and so technical that if it's not a challenge, it's not exciting to him.
Right. Not even worth his time.
Exactly. This is probably one of the most challenging projects he's ever had. I will say that because,
Yeah.
if it was easy, other people would be doing it. And that's why, we're the only ones and the best ones to be doing this. And so, we're fortunate enough to meet him, but at the same time, it was just a difficult process working with new people and, trying to set a new standard. So,
Yeah. Love that. The other thing I want to talk about is sort of your brand process. So what was you always had it called the Elite Donut, but you do have new packaging, which if you're watching the audio visual full experience, you can see these beautiful packages behind Amin. Talk to us about how you ended up landing on this particular branding.
Yeah. So we did everything bootstrap, like I said. So we didn't have this fancy branding agency or anything like that. It was literally back to our college apartment. We did a lot of brainstorming, in the early days. We didn't have any money or resources. So we came up with everything on our own, and we were always throwing out different ideas. And long story short, my brother was doing something with donuts. We don't even know today what he was trying to do, but he had sweets in the name. And so we liked the idea of sweets. And then we just like tossed it up in the air, and we're just throwing out a bunch of names and trying to see what stuck. And then we said Elite Sweets, and it was just one of those exercise Elite Sweets. We were saying it, and we were just like, that makes a lot of sense, working with elite athletes and just kind of given the time, it just, we wanted to be an elite product. And so that's literally how the name came about. It's just us kind of all huddled together, brainstorming.
Yeah.
And so Elite Sweets was the name. And then as we continued to progress, people were like, you need a product name, or you need I guess a name for the donuts. And people were giving us all these crazy names, and we're just like, I don't know. And then we're like, the Elite Donut, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
is that not a good name? Is that too simple? And it just stuck. We liked it. I think everyone else had all these, like Cookie Monster type funky ideas, and we're like, that's not really us,
Right. So Elite Sweets is now your parent company, which carries this product line, Elite Donut.
Yeah, and from the very beginning, we always had the big picture in mind. We knew we wanted to be more than just kind of a donut company. We're really building the brand today around the Elite Donut because it's, a unique differentiator, helps build that brand equity. But being Elite Sweets, we want to be the leader in this category. We want to be the leader in the better for you sweets category, and we're not going to limit ourselves to just baked goods. We kind of want to launch in other lines of low sugar protein packed sweets, and so that's where we want to play. And then to go from like the heat seal bags with the stickers around them to where we are today, it's actually funny. Basically, long story short, I always used to listen to this guy in the industry, his podcast, and I was like, man, this guy's so
definitely share that resource with the Boss Fam too, because I love when people listen to other resource sharing podcasts as well.
Yeah, so his name is Nick Ingersoll, and his show is called the Nick Ingersoll Podcast, and he's a co-founder and CMO of Barnana, which they make like plantain chips and like chocolate covered plantains, things like that. They're a really successful company, and he's Forbes 30 under 30, and he has his own podcast. And I love listening to industry podcasts, and he was always so insightful. He didn't try and hide the truth. He was always honest about everything and real genuine. And really, being first time entrepreneurs and new to the industry, we're learning through all these different resources, and podcasts is a big part of my learnings. And I used to always hear this guy and I was like, man, I would love to work with him. I was like, he just sounds like the coolest guy in the world. And so long story short, one day we were doing R&D. It was actually when we were trying to launch your donuts. We were doing that in Colorado, and we were there all week, and we were kind of looking at the calendar, and it was like Expo West, which is the biggest natural food trade show,
Yes.
was later on that week, and me and Amir were like, maybe we should just go check it out. So on a whim, we just got a flight to LA. And so we ended up going out to LA. And while we were there at the trade show, I was like, I'm going to find this guy. And so I went to his booth, and, it was funny because there was a whole line to talk to him. And I was like, of course, a guy like him is going to have a whole line. And so I was in the line, and then I was getting discouraged. I was like, this is taking forever. And I was like, I don't want to be the guy just waiting. But I was like, you know what? I flew all the way out to LA. Why not? So I got to talk to him, and I gave him my business card, and we talked, and he liked the idea. And I didn't know if he was, I didn't know how he really felt about it, because, obviously he's getting approached by many, many people. And, finally, I sent him an email afterwards. He eventually responded, and, we went from there, and now he's an advisor in our business. He helped us kind of with the rebrand and redesign. And he actually recently moved to Austin, Texas. And so now we're working.
Even better.
Yeah, it's a small world, and it's crazy how it all comes together. But now he lives in Austin, Texas, and we work closely with him, meet in person. And, he's a branding genius. I'm not going to tell his whole story, but if you listen to his podcast,
I do like him. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you've heard it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Banana is also such a great brand.
Yeah, exactly. And so, he started his brand literally just off packaging on its own. And so his design, his eye for that, we just went back and forth with kind of like mood boards and like what the brand really means. And,
I see a lot of cues to performance nutrition. So, you're branding around being elite and really marketing towards active lifestyle, high performance individuals. That comes across very clearly. My days working on protein powders and performance nutrition products, this is what it looks like. So I see a lot of those motifs represented on the packaging there.
Exactly. We wanted to make call outs to the high protein, low sugar, obviously keto-friendly, gluten-free. So really highlighting the benefits and the functionality of the donut. So,
great job. It's stunning. It's really great packaging. And I think it speaks for itself. I also love the imagery of the donuts themselves, really creating that appeal before you even open the bag.
Exactly. That was one thing too that we wanted to do was, everyone has this misperception of like a really dense or a protein bar or chalky. And so we wanted to really kind of show like the inside of the product and show that it's cake-like and it's, approachable. Whereas a lot of people have this, a misperception of what a healthier product tastes like or is going to be like.
Yeah, agreed. So I want to run some of your experiences by everyone. You were part of the Mondelez. You are a part of the Mondelez International Snack Futures Collab Accelerator, chosen as one of 9 brands that get to participate in that. It's such a big deal. Would love for you to tell us a little bit more about that. Also, you talked about your WeWork ATX Accelerator and how that got you your first $360,000 to really more formally build out a few things for the brand. Androzine Horowitz TXO Fund, the Nosh Pit Slam 9 winner. You are not a stranger to really having pitched and shared what you're doing. Talk to us a little bit more about how important it's been for you to sort of take your donuts on a road show. And from what I understand, it has been through the old packaging to now. And so just tell us a little bit about why you took that journey and how that's helped you, whether it's meeting people, getting opportunities, getting funding. Just really want to impress on the community how important or significant these opportunities can be for them and encourage them to look for them when it comes to their products. So let's know your experience.
Yeah. I think it was really, in the early days, it was out of necessity, right? We were coming out of college. We didn't have, funding, we didn't have any money. We didn't our family, like people say friends and family. I'm like,
that's the friends and family around. You're like, who?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I didn't come from, rich parents, and, my friends are like college kids that are also in debt. So, I didn't know what friends and family was in terms of like a fundraising round. So it was really out of necessity, in the early days. The only way we were able to, being minorities, first time entrepreneurs, it's the hardest thing you could do is get capital. And so, we did these pitch competitions, we did these accelerators out of just sheer will and necessity. It was like there was no other way for us to fund our business. So, in the early days, we did the WeWork pitch competition. We did the Sputnik ATX accelerator. It was actually in June 2019. So that's kind of aligned when we say we launched or sold our first donut.
Mm-hmm.
And then, with Andrews and Horowitz, same thing. We needed a little bit of capital. And obviously, when you start working with big venture firms, it's kind of like, now you're setting yourself up with strategic partnerships. They bring credibility. And
Mm-hmm.
same with Mondelez is at the end of the day, that these are all great partners that are in the industry, and we have an end goal in mind, right? At the end of the day, we'd love to be acquired. We'd love to kind of set ourselves up for acquisition. So it's partnering with these guys who are going to help us, down the line. It's not about just immediate cash today. It's like who's going to help us see it through the finish line. And so I think that's kind of how we started. It was like early days, people to help give us money, help give us, these opportunities, kind of this platform to shine. And, we always stepped up and took advantage of everything. We were always guys to, apply for every
Mm-hmm.
single thing that came
Mm-hmm.
up, like the accelerator, Sputnik ATX accelerator. I mean, I applied they extended the deadline and I still applied on the very last day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the WeWork thing, we didn't even apply. We just went to South by Southwest, ran into them, and we're fortunate enough that they told us to do the whole thing. And with Andrews and one of the TXO, same thing. We saw the application, and it was like the thing is we never. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? And
Absolutely.
that's kind of been our approach since day one. Is like you're not going to win them all, but it's a numbers game. Same with fundraising and anything you do. It's like you put yourself in position, and we like to say, luck is when opportunity meets perfect timing. And so
Yep.
one of those things for us, we got lucky a lot, but we prepared well and we set ourselves up with these opportunities. And so it's just a lot of repetition. I
Mm-hmm.
can pitch my brand all day long because I pitched my brand since day one. You know what I mean? From going out to the gyms when, we were nothing to now it's like, I've done this now hundreds and really thousands of times at this
And you
point,
refine it. You refine it every time.
better and better. So
Yeah. I think, I definitely want to share your biggest milestone, which is 2 million seed round in funding. Talk to us about this.
yeah, that was aside from the 1 year layoff, if you will. This is definitely the hardest thing we've ever had to do, like as a business. Challenge it's just so challenging fundraising. There's so much that goes into it. Being first time entrepreneurs, being minorities, you just don't have the same access to capital. You don't know these people and they don't know you. And at the end of the day, everyone invests in their friend or kind of that connection that they have. Because I mean, when you think about it like holistically, it's like what can I say to some person on the phone after a 30-minute conversation that convinces them to write me $1 million check? There's not a lot of good things I can say that's gonna just make someone write that check. But
Yeah.
if I've known someone for years and we've built a relationship and they've seen my progress, then it's like, he's come a long way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, although it's one of the happiest moments for us and a great milestone as a business, it is certainly a challenge. And I really have to give credit to some of our advisors and
Yeah.
partners that we work with. We partnered with our advisors are the founders of Super Coffee.
Yeah.
I think we had a conversation
They're
about this.
brothers.
Yeah, three brothers out
Yeah.
of New York.
Three brothers. Okay.
They also went through the whole Shark Tank and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
they've had a lot of success in their business in 6 years now. They're valued at like $500 million, and they've raised a ton of capital. And so, is partnering with guys like that who's helped kind of make intros to investors that they've worked with, and really vouch for you and put themselves out there because they've had a lot of success. And so, partnering with those people has really helped make it easier for us to raise capital, because without those guys, it's hard to say where we'd be.
Yeah.
So we got to give them a lot of credit. And that's an advice I would give to anybody is like really build these relationships and build these connections, because you never know when you're going to cash in on them or when it's going to come in
Yeah.
handy. So That's the one piece of advice or the one learning that I would say that we had is, you have to have these warm intros, because unless you know someone who's just open checkbook, or you know what I mean, it's
Yeah.
really tough to get to do that. So it's been great. We're excited, and with the capital, we want to continue to expand the brand. We want to roll out into retail and make Elite Donut available in stores everywhere. We want to make this household name. Um, but it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned your mentors. Yes, a big thing about being a first time entrepreneur as well, it means you have to go through everything for the first time, and you want to avoid certain pitfalls. So the way you hedge some of those pitfalls is work with someone who has already gone through it and has some wisdom and insight on how you could do it better and smarter and smoother. So, that was awesome. Who were some of the other mentors you had that either help you kind of curve your knowledge gap or help you to foresee some things in different stages of your development, whether it's your co-manager, whether it's your co-packer experience, whether it was, strengthening your e-commerce, whether it was the product development piece, how to sharpen that. Who are some of the other mentors for you or resources that you use to really get smarter and sharper?
Yeah, I think in the early days, we reverted to kind of within the community, the Austin CPG community, trying to go to events and meet people and things like that. But for us, it's really trial by fire. Amir and I, we learned everything, in a lot of senses the hard way. We paid for it. We've had to learn our lessons, and we had tough times for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's like some of the best learnings is just learning on your own and
Yeah.
making those mistakes. But to your point, you got to learn from others. And so we brought on, like, Nick Ingersoll was our first advisor, and that was literally, it's one of those things you just sometimes you I would say the biggest piece of advice I can have when it comes to like advisors and people, like, everyone wanted to be our advisor in the early days, but it's like,
Mm,
why? Like, what have you done? Nick has built a successful business. He's proven his track record. Whereas you graduated from Harvard, some other guy or something like that. Like, okay, you graduated from a great school, but you've never built a business. So why would I take advice from a guy like you? And it's nothing against them, but it's
yeah.
like, if you haven't done it before, how can you tell me how to do it? And that was
Hmm.
something that we really, it's like, practice what you preach, right? And that's
Hmm.
how we approach kind of advisors or mentors or anything like that.
Yeah.
Nick was our first one. We knew the skill set and the value he brought. We brought on the super coffee guys recently, and it's crazy because they all moved to Austin. So it's like
Yeah.
it's amazing. It really worked in our favor, and helped us kind of build the community. But the super coffee guys, we followed in their footsteps. These are guys that we've seen really build great companies and really fast. And
Mhm. They
the
also understand protein products and how to market that. Yeah.
a ton of
There's
synergy.
a lot of similarities there. Hmm.
Exactly. And I mean, these guys in Super Coffee, I mean, they've built an organization. Now they have 250 employees. And it's like, the guys are all still under 30, the three of them. These are
Hmm.
guys who are proven and have that track record. And those are the people we want to work with. And so that's kind of how we picked our advisory team. And we didn't know any of them going into it. It was just reaching out to them, really pitching them like we pitch everyone else. And that self-belief in us, but also their belief in us as well. And, finding people who really believe in you and are willing to help you out is really critical. And so
Yeah.
uh, that's
That
my
goes a long way because as much as people invest in what you've created, they really invest in you because what you created may not pan out. I mean, I think Elite has shown that it's going to get there. It's really making headways. But at the beginning, anyone that's already supported you was really largely investing in you and your brother, you and Amir as entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
equally
exactly.
as much as the idea. It's your story and everything, your hard work. They were believing in that to get this to where it's going to be.
Exactly. And that's what the investors say is, like, especially in the early days, they're investing in the founders, they're investing in the team. Because, I don't want to say anyone can make a great product, but I mean, you know, let's say anyone makes a product, but can they see it through? Do they have the conviction to really do this? Do they have the grit, the commitment? Are they really passionate about it? And that's
Hmm.
something that everyone saw in us, is like, this isn't just like a get rich quick scheme or anything for us. This is like, this is something that's tried and true. We really live this, and we're willing to work harder than anyone to make it happen. And so that's how we got here today.
Love that. We talked about some of the milestones, but are there any specific ones that you would say were really like key turning points that like made you really further believe in what you were doing, or really crystallize like, man, we have a legitimate business, we're going places? Where were some of those milestones for you?
Yeah, there's been quite a few. I think, it's always a moving target in the early,
Yeah.
like, the first one I would say was obviously winning that pitch competition, getting some funding, because it's like without that, would we be here today? I couldn't tell you.
Right.
So it's really the early belief that some people have in you, and winning that competition, that was huge for us, because it really got, it got me to quit my job. It got me to really buy in, because, I was bought in, but it was like I wasn't willing to get in the kitchen. I wasn't willing to do the dirty work. But
Mm-hmm.
once you got other people's money on the line, what's at stake. It's like
Yep.
you lock in, right? And so I think that was a huge turning point for us. And then kind of get into the co-packer, so not making it ourselves was huge,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot of work. And it's one of those things that it's just, you have to be realistic with what's scalable, and you have to create a scalable business. And us working 14 hours in the kitchen is not a scalable business. Is not going to help make Elite a household name. And so I think getting the co-packer was huge, and really getting that first production run. I think rebranding was a huge milestone as well, because if you
Mm-hmm.
saw our other packaging, we weren't even the Elite donut at the time. We were just like a protein donut. And so I think that was a huge one for us. And then
Got to start somewhere.
yeah, launching on Amazon, becoming the number one selling donut on Amazon was awesome. And
That is
really the
amazing.
capital raise, like I said, that's been the hardest thing to do. We've done a lot of hard things, but raising millions of dollars, especially at a young age, is no easy task. And so I would say, those are all been kind of, validation for us, or like, really, proof that we're here to stay, and that, we're going to continue to do this. So it's been a moving target, and a lot of, great things have happened. So it's nice to reflect on it, and, just thankful for all the opportunities that we've had.
Yeah. Have you just sort of like walked around in like 2 million? Someone gave us that to grow this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Internally, it's a cool feeling, but at the end of the day, it's responsibility. We know what it means. But it's something that, like I said, we killed the year, and we feel like we're always playing from behind, if you will. And so it's something that we've been ready for. We're ready to
Yeah.
get to work, and it just helps further our goals, and moves us closer to the next milestone. We're
Yeah.
not even in retail stores yet.
Yeah. So like let's get into it. So we talked some about the next frontier, but let's really define this part of the conversation as that next frontier. Paint us what we could be expecting from Elite Sweets
Yeah.
in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. So really right now, kind of our immediate focus is really building that brand online, continue to build that community.
Yeah.
And then as we look kind of towards 2022 and beyond, it's retail distribution. It's getting that rollout into to regional and national retailers. So GNC, Whole Foods, your gym chains, sports nutrition. We want to get into the HEBs of the world, really the mass grocery stores, and really kind of be available. I think that's one of our disadvantages today, is our product's not available everywhere. When you think of companies like the Lenny and Larry's cookies, you can find them in convenience 7-Elevens, kind of everywhere. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where we want to play, is right there next to them. So I think from a brand awareness standpoint, plus just generally as a brand, to really get that massive distribution is going to be huge for us. So over the next few years, that's what we're going to be focused on, is rolling out with new distribution in all retailers. We want to obviously launch new flavors. I know we get hear that all the time.
Yes, I love the flavors, but it just makes you want more, taste more of what you can do. What are some flavors we might be able to expect? Can we help choose? What's going on with this?
We always take feedback. We kind of have a couple locked in that we think are going to be the next big thing for us, or kind of next flavor.
Okay.
I'm not going to tease any today.
No, we're gonna just have to stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, you have to stay tuned. Continue to engage with us on social media, and
Absolutely.
we always take feedback for sure. We're always open to new things, but for us, new flavors is on the horizon. We look at product extensions like donut holes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, kind of like protein pack bites that people can share with their friends. We think that's going to be
Mm-hmm.
huge for us. Everyone loves donut holes. Uh,
Everybody.
So that's going to be the kind of the next big thing for us. We look at like plant-based options, obviously kind of looking at trends and looking at where the market's going. That's on the horizon at some point. And then, like I said, being Elite Sweets, we want to be the leader in this category. So it goes beyond donuts for us. So we look at other low sugar protein packed sweets. I think the one thing about Elite Sweets is we're always going to lead with innovation. So we're not going to be your next, protein cookie or anything like that, protein cookie company. We're always going to look for that white space, where people want, and bring innovation to a traditionally, unhealthy category, if you will, and, lead with, nutrition, health, and fitness first.
Yeah, I mean, so many great nuggets here, and this is why I'm so rooting for you. I mean, I'm individually invested because I love this space and I see the opportunity like you. And then when I met you, I even, had more brand affinity knowing what was behind the brand, which is why it's so important for us to share your story, because that's, it's your story that people really talk about, and then that leads them to tasting the product. So, it's really an honor to have you on. I am curious. We got to share quite a bit of advice and resources, but is there anything on your mind during this period of time? And maybe some of it might be related to the 2 million, or what do you do after you raise that you think about? And I know the Boss Fam is wondering too, like, what do you do with the 2 million after? Talk to us about what are some of the plans for that, and then we can get into some advice for founders who would have been at the phase that you just left off from.
Yeah, and for sure. So the plans with the capital, we're building out our team. So first and foremost, it's been Amir and I since day one. A small, lean team. And, if you're going to scale any business, it requires a great team. And, obviously we brought on some great advisors, great mentors, but they're not, the ones in the day to day. They're not the ones working full time for us. So kind of building that out from an organizational standpoint, really looking at, what pieces do we need to put in the puzzle to really, what cogs in the machine are going to help get it running, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're doing, is building out the team. We're looking at a kind of reformulation. So right now the product is kind of like a frozen product. It's good for 3 months on shelf, but we want to get it to like the 9 to 12 months so we can play in the kind of Lenny and Larry's range. So really focused on kind of getting the product shelf stable. And we want to continue to build the brand online. So, we're on Amazon, the number one selling donut. We're going to launch on gnc.com pretty soon. Continue to build a brand and community that at the end of the day, you are your community. And, those are the people that are going to get you through everything and really help push the brand. These are your advocates, your brand ambassadors. And so really continue to build that online. And that's the focus right now, is just continue to do that. And then we want to do the retail rollout. So making the product more available in all retailers, getting the product in people's hands, building the brand equity, building the brand of Elite Sweets.
Yeah. So I love where you all are going, and we're going to be here to support that as well. Be a part of that tribe, be a part of that elite community, the elite fam, elite squad, whatever you're going to call us. We're going to be a part of that as well. Before the podcast, I talked to Amin and told him how I gushed to my gym and told everybody about it. And they were also so amazed at how great it tastes. So, we're going to continue to support that. What advice might you have to the Boss Fam who is currently wondering what risks they should take right now in their business, and what should inform that next step? Talk to us from your experience on things that they consider when up against their risk versus staying the same right now in their business.
Yeah, I think for everyone, it's a personal decision, right? You have to really assess, who you are and, your risk tolerance. What are you willing to really see this out? Because a lot of people say they're entrepreneurs or say they're this, that, the other, but then, at the end of the day, they're just thinkers. They're not willing to execute or get their hands dirty and do that. And so you really have to kind of assess yourself. I think a self-assessment first, and look at your risk assessment. Like, I'm young, I was coming out of college. I don't have kids or a family to support anything. Like, I had nothing to lose, worst case scenario. I already live in my parents' house. So I can't get much lower than that. You know what I mean? So, I didn't have much to lose in that point. So it was really the right time in my life to kind of do this. And I'd say to that point, I think in everyone's mind, and even in myself, it's like, you're waiting for the right time, or you're waiting until you have enough money, or you're waiting for whatever your excuse is. And the reality is none of that is real. Like, there's never going to be a right time. You're never going to have enough money unless you hit the lotto, which, you know what I mean? Like,
Slim chance for most of us.
So it's never, there's never going to be that, like, the time to jump off the cliff. It's like, it has to be a personal decision. It has to be something, you're fully bought into. You have the conviction, and you're willing to commit, time to. Like, nothing successful happens overnight. And I think that's something that we've learned the hard way. You hear about all these, overnight success stories, but that overnight was 6 to 10 years for a lot of these brands. And so it's like, I think you have to really be willing to commit, and you have to really take that leap. You have to take that jump, and believe in yourself more than anything. And that's what we did. Being naive is the number one asset I think all entrepreneurs have, is we all think we're the next big thing, or we have the best idea, and we're going to be this $1 billion unicorn. And that's the mentality you need to have.
To do the crazy things you need in order to get to the next step. The crazy but strategic things you need to do to get to the next step. Yeah. I love that. That's good advice. That's great advice. So for you, what does it mean to be Mexican Iranian on shelf? That's something we didn't quite talk about, but you have a Mexican Iranian background, and that makes it even more sweet. You're a first-time entrepreneur, you are Mexican Iranian. These are all things that you use to continue to help you to be this great entrepreneur, knowing that you are doing something different. There's a lot of pride in that. Talk to us about how you feel being Mexican and Iranian on shelf. Digital shelf.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, it provides a lot of perspective, right? I think, coming from immigrant parents, you have a different perspective on life, and you have a different approach. They laid all the groundwork and did all the work getting us here, right? And, it's almost kind of our responsibility to take that next step as a family, or kind of like generation, if you will. And, seeing it through the success, or living the American dream, if you will. They spend all their time, like my dad growing up, he worked 2 jobs. He was an accountant during the day, and then at nights, he was a college professor, teaching accounting. And so he worked, a ton when I was younger, and same for my mom. They both were well educated, and they really, that was really their focus for them. And, coming from any kind of immigrant or minority families, education is really key. And when I say my brother dropped out, that didn't sit well with the family. But, at the end of the day, you still have to believe in yourself. And, I think our parents always believed in us. And I think that's one thing that was always strong. But, it helps us because we have the different perspective, and we really appreciate everything, I think, a little bit more. And
no one can outwork you. You're working.
They work so hard to put us in this position. So it's only right that we do the same to put our kids in the same position. And so I think that's the approach that we really take with every single day. And, that's the mindset that really pushes us. And, some people are born with a silver spoon, and, great for them, but, they don't have it in them. They don't have that grit, and they probably never will. And, it's nothing against them. It's just, it's something you really have to be born with, and something you have to be brought up in.
Yeah. Or life teaches you that, right? Yeah. How do your parents feel about where you are now? Do they are proud now? They understand the sacrifice of quitting for your brother?
They get it. Of course, they're always going to lean. They always lean towards like education, the safe route at the end of the day. But at this point, they get who we are. They know what we do. So they're proud of us, and they're excited. And, they may not say it all the time, but behind our backs, we know they're bragging to their friends.
So for the milestone, we have to know, are you still living with your parents?
I still am. I know it's crazy. We just raised 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
I'm going to be moving out soon. I'm finally going to get my own place.
Oh.
At the end of the day, that's what it took. I think that's another thing that people take for granted, is like, they're not willing to sacrifice. And I was willing to give up everything, everything in my life, social life, living on my own, all that stuff. So it is what it is. But, I'm happy where I'm at, and hopefully I'm even happier in a few years. So
yeah, keep up the great work. We're such big fans here. I totally love what you are doing. I do love your story and the proposition of this product. It's delicious, 100% approved by me. How can the Boss Fam follow you and support what you guys are doing?
yeah, definitely check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at elite.sweets. You can check us out at elitedonut.com. We're also on Amazon. Just search Elite Sweets or the Elite Donut for the number one selling donuts. So it shouldn't be too hard to find us. And
yes, get the variety pack.
get the variety pack.
That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Get it all in you, and write a 5-star review. We really appreciate that, and
yes,
I love all feedback. So really appreciate you all, and thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, and thanks for coming. We're looking forward to seeing your growth, your continued growth.
I appreciate it. Thank you.